Boston voters will have to make several important decisions in this year's primary election happening right after Labor Day on September 4th. A number of candidates are running for state and county positions. One of them is the candidate for a seat being vacated by State Representative Evandro Carvalho in the 5th Suffolk District. We'd like to welcome a lifelong community resident, youth advocate, and educator, Liz Miranda. Thank you very much for being with us, Liz.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you very much for being with us. Liz, you know the territory here, so for people who don't know what this district is made up of, what parts of the city are we talking about?
The 5th Suffolk District is one of the most amazing parts of our city. It's the third most diverse district in the country, actually. It includes parts of Dudley Street all the way up Blue Hill Avenue, Bowdoin, Geneva, and Uphams to Fields Corner through Four Corners. So it's a large segment of our sort of North Dorchester community, and two pieces really of Roxbury. It includes 6 different zip codes, and I like to tell people it's like 10 little mini neighborhoods in one. Meeting House Hill, Jones Hill, you have Bowdoin, Geneva, Fields Corner, Uphams Corner, and Dudley Street to be the main areas.
Well, you have an interesting life story. You're a first-generation Cape Verdean American.
Yes.
And you seem to have done quite well, and your mother had to really struggle and help you.
Yeah, so I was born in the Dudley Street Triangle. If anyone knows about the Dudley Street corridor, it was at one point in time the poorest part of our city. There's obviously 2 movies and a book about the struggles of residents creating change. My mom had me when she was a junior at Madison Park High School and decided to drop out and work, and she's worked as a cook at the Sheraton Boston for 38 years as also a union member. She enlisted a lot of help from the elders in our family and our community to ensure that I had a great life, and she pushed me to choose education as the lever of change in my life. I'm a public school graduate, but then I graduated from the John D. O'Brien, so as you can see, right next door to Madison Park, and John D. O'Brien afforded me the opportunity to get into Wellesley, and I graduated Wellesley in 2002, and I decided to come back in my neighborhood and create change, because the truth is, I shouldn't have been the exception to the rule. I should be the rule.
Now, given your education, you could have been successful in a different way. So why did you choose this way?
A lot of the things that happened to me as a young person, I wanted to come back and do for other young people. And I've had a 20-year history of working in community and youth development. The Nubian Roots Youth Committee, My Town, Teen Empowerment, the Orchard Park Teen Center, they all invested in me. And when I was at Wellesley, we would see these signs that would say, "Women who will make a difference in the world." And I couldn't think of a better place or a place I loved more than where I came from. And I decided to come right back into the Roxbury community and decided to be really active in my community to help create change.
Now, your family story also has a painful side, the loss of your brother. What do you learn from that? What do you want to apply from that?
Well, I've been an activist against gun violence for a really long time, peace promotions and in creating alternatives to violence as a youth worker. But 10 months ago, my younger brother, Michael, was killed outside of a Boston nightclub. And it made me realize that no one was immune. I thought that I had been working really hard and that I understood, but I guess I didn't understand enough. And when that painful incident happened in my really large family, I'm one of 11 siblings, it made me realize that there's a real crisis and opportunity here in our city where young people find a weapon such as a gun more important than maybe a weapon of like education or fighting poverty. So I think in our city, we have to do better for our young people, not just young people who are 14, but young people who are 18 to 24. We're not doing enough for the 10,000 disengaged young people in our city, many of whom live in the Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan corridor. And I would just say that for me, if we don't invest adequately in the opportunity of our young people, what you have is a neighborhood full of young people who are disconnected, disengaged, and disempowered.
We're talking with Liz Miranda, a candidate for state representative in the 5th Suffolk District. Liz, talking about education up in the state Senate, they recently approved a big increase in the foundation amount of money for schools, because that would take care of a lot of the cuts that we've been hurt by in Boston. But as far as making that a reality, what do you see yourself doing?
I think one of the most important things is I believe in resident-led change, and I believe in change that people who live in these districts need to be able to voice their concerns concerns and also be empowered to be part of the process. Schools can't do this alone. I believe in a high quality education for all young people. Families want their kids to get an education. My mother wanted me to get an education to help our family. But what we really need to have is a comprehensive discussion. And I think the power of this seat would be able to convene people to talk about out of school time as well as in school time. When these young people leave these institutions of learning, they need to be supported in other capacities. And what I find is that I'm really impressed by the continuous fight on Bowdoin Street, on the other side from the Bowdoin Street that I walk along all the time. But the point is that it's not a conversation just about government and education. It's a conversation about how all sectors of society can impact increasing opportunity for young people, both in school and out of school.
Now, I know we talk about rich out-of-school opportunities for young people. You know something about that because you took how many kids to see Black Panther?
Yeah, so I took about 2,700 young people and 200 elders to see Black Panther through the Boston Black Panther Challenge. Honestly, it started off as a competitive thing. I'd heard about a young man in New York who did the same thing, and I said, hey, Boston can't lose to New York City. And I really cared about the representation. It's very similar to the representation that I'm fighting for now, is that young people usually don't think they can be what they do not see. And I thought this film was an important way to show the empowerment and the rich legacy of African people throughout the world. I'm first generation born in this country from African immigrants. And it was important for me to show young people that they are superheroes too, and that they are scientists and they can make a difference in their world too, which was another layer in the film that some people have not talked about, was how impressive that they were able to show women empowerment, community empowerment, as well as ethnic empowerment.
Now, the current state representative, Evandro Carvalho, among other things, was very interested in criminal justice reform, helping to reduce the recidivism that's still a problem. What about the unfinished work that you'd like to do?
I'd like to continue a lot of his work in criminal justice reform and transportation equity. One thing we're finding is that a lot of people talk about the school to prison pipeline, but one factor of that is this sort of DYS, or system of juvenile detention, to the wider prison system. And I believe that there needs to be local reentry services. You know, there's the Office of Returning Citizens in the waterfront. I think we need to do a better job by making sure that that's accessible to the hundreds of young people who leave facilities every year, from foster care also to the Department of Youth Services. There are about 10,000 young people, as I stated before, who are disengaged, who are out of work and out of school. Many of them don't have housing. Many of them don't have good jobs. And I think we need a place where there could be wraparound services for them locally in the Dorchester community to better serve them and be culturally competent. These young people are from various backgrounds. If we don't have the people who speak Creole or Spanish or Vietnamese, we are really missing the mark at providing high quality, culturally competent, trauma-informed care.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Liz Miranda, candidate for state representative in the 5th Suffolk District. And we'll have more news in just a moment.